months since I've last seen you, and I feel like the world's already different,
that.
right? I
Huh.
mean, it's absolutely crazy how quickly things change in America and in the world. Right now, during the time of this recording, we are coming off of Black History Month, and Russia had just recently, a few days in the invasion of Ukraine. And, there's a lot of joking about, this is the beginning of World War III, but it's kind of not a game.
Right? No, because I don't think people understand the magnitude. Because what we've only seen World War from history book
Yeah,
and Saving Private Ryan.
sure,
You know what I'm saying? So
sure,
I don't think
sure.
people understand the seriousness of this.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
I've seen like the little jokes here and there, but
Yep.
imagine
In
just
the mic.
imagine just being at home and you're looking out the window and seeing a missile fly right by you.
I can't imagine. And that's a luxury that Americans have, right? The likelihood of us seeing war, you know, in the country, on our lands, on our shores is very unlikely. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very unlikely. So when we see these images of, tanks rolling over cars and children being dug up from rubble, yeah, we feel empathy, but we don't really feel it like they do. So it's always at a distance, right?
Well, I think it's a false sense of security, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Only for the fact that 9/11 was 20 years ago.
20 years ago, yeah.
So that brought it to reality.
Yeah. When we're vulnerable.
Yeah. And missiles, you know what I'm saying? I don't think the country could deter every missile that comes this way if it was to happen, which is like why everybody's like, why isn't the US a little bit more involved in the conflict? And I understand why. Cuz we jump in there just head first.
Mm.
This is World War 3.
Yeah.
Straight up. World War 3.
Yeah. It's a scary, scary thing, man. And bro, like as far as I can think, man, there's always been some kind of conflict. And even though I was young, I can remember hearing from my old tube television, just, you know, talking points, talking about Panama and Noriega and Contra. And obviously I was too young to understand what was going on.
First
I mean,
off, your memory is amazing for you to even remember that. The
well,
names, dog.
well, I mean, some of my best memories, some of my most vivid memories, funny enough, is one from when I'm a child. It's
Wow,
as I gradually get older, things kind of get murky and
that's
faded.
crazy.
But yeah, no, I remember like hearing like news because
Mhm.
being a child of Haitians, and maybe it's a generational thing, but like the the news was gospel for everybody. If you wanted to be informed of what was going on in the world, the news, your local news, was your trusted source. It's very, very different now. Um, and from there, there was Operation Desert Storm in the early '90s. I was a little bit older. I had a better understanding of what was going on, but the way that was portrayed, that was a joke. It wasn't even a conflict. It's basically we came in, we tore shit up, and that was that. Put Saddam in his place. Then we had a few years of what it seemed like, relative peace. Who knows what was going on in the background that the American populace did not know.
Just
Um,
slow job. Shout out
that's
to
what.
shout out to Monica.
Shout out to Monica, and shout out to Bill too. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, what is he but a man? Um, and I'm not justifying his behavior, nor do I condone it. I'm just saying I understand the weakness that is the flesh. Um,
Hey man, trying to get a nut. He just happens to be the president.
and then 9/11 happened,
Yeah.
and everything changed. everything changed. Everything about our culture, our sense of security, like you mentioned before, completely shattered. And nothing's been the same since, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There was a sense of, prosperity in the 90s. 90s, the 90s kind of felt like a peak, and maybe it's a bias on my part because those were kind of like my golden years coming up as a teenager in high school, heading towards college, maybe I think of those years as fond years because those were, my some of my best years of my life. But, there definitely was a sense of prosperity that we had in the 90s. And ever since 9/11, we've been in perpetual war. And it's been doom and gloom. And, slowly but surely, the American people became more divided.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Now that you put it that way, I life seemed normal.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't hit to things things like racism or feeling
Sure.
scared.
Yeah.
Unless you did something bad,
Sure.
have to pay you have to pay consequences for whatever that is. But I think I was just a kid and got into my fights here and there. I used to do little dumb shit, as all kids do, dumb
Of
shit,
course. Of course.
and I felt normal. High school, went to work and all that stuff, and then, like you said, 9/11. That's when things is like, okay, what's going on? You know, these are things that we see from movies happening in real life,
In
and
real life.
especially the breaking news. Like, and like first it was the one when one plane went in. Next, we actually see this. Then we actually see the second plane fly into the other building,
That was insane.
jumping all.
Like it wasn't an act. You realize it wasn't an accident. It was an attack.
Yeah, I remember. I remember like in my memory. You say your memory is good from back in the day. Shoot,
That,
I remember bits and pieces of here and there, but I remember that day being.
yeah.
I don't remember what grade I was in, but I remember what class I was in. I remember whose class, Miss Butler's class, and they were rolling in. We had the rolling carts with the TV on it. They were rolling the carts and connecting the BNC cable to the wall.
Core memory.
You know what I'm saying? Plugging the thing into the wall, and then we're seeing this happen in real life, and we just don't know what's going on.
And it must have been scary because you were in high school, right, when that happened?
Yeah,
Or
it
you're
was
probably a freshman because I was a freshman in college.
okay.
So you were probably a freshman in high school or, eighth grade or something like
A
that.
freshman, I believe a freshman. Yeah, I was a freshman.
And it was terrifying. I mean, I was on my way to work. Um, it was my freshman year, Northeastern. I had had evening classes, and I was, heading my way to this retail store I used to work in downtown Boston. And I remember going, I remember going to Bell Rock Market in Malden. I was going to pick up a couple of Dutch Masters, and the Asian gentleman who owned the store at the time was like, "Have you seen what's going on?" I didn't watch the news or anything,
Yeah.
and I looked towards the TV, and one of the towers was like smoking. I'm like, "Yo, was there a fire? Was there explosions? Like plane to it?" I'm like, it's kind of like I was kind of in shock a little bit because it didn't seem real. Kind of stuck around, and like the second plane, to it, you can hear the commentators freaking out and panicking, and we're like, I can look in the guy's face. He's a little bit older, um, and we just knew that like everything is going to change. It's going to be an actual war after this. It's pretty wild.
Did you know that at the moment, because in the beginning for me, I just didn't know what
Yeah,
the hell was going on. Like,
I had a strong sense.
yeah,
There was no way that the United States of America, especially under a Republican presidency, was not going to have some form of retaliation. Because, that's kind of like the conservative stance, like strength, law, and order,
mhm.
right? If you come at us with a slingshot, we're gonna drop a nuclear bomb on you. That's kind of like the attitude of the GOP. And there's a time and place for everything for that kind of stuff, And
like
I just knew.
like at that particular point, I'm like you say you remember the Desert Storm days. Like I wasn't familiar
Yeah,
with
you were
that type of
younger.
stuff. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Like
yeah.
see movies here and there, like Rocky. Was
But
it
it felt like
Rocky
the
three?
past.
Yeah, but I had no reference point.
Sure.
So like we didn't think of terrorists. Like I didn't know the word
Yeah.
terrorist. Like now we if you first thing unfortunately first thing you think when you think terrorist is a person that's Middle Eastern.
Yeah. You think of an Arab.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like I had no reference point at that particular time, right? So at that point when the planes hit the building, we didn't know what was going on. We're still trying to gather the facts.
Sure.
It like was fake, all that good stuff. As time moved forward and they're piecing things together, put the faces of Middle Eastern guys. Like, okay. And then the buzzword at that time was terrorism, because I had no familiarity with the word terrorism.
Yeah.
I didn't know about the first. I didn't know that the World Trade Centers were bombed before.
Yeah.
I didn't know all that
You were
stuff.
young. I mean, you
Yeah,
were 13 when it happened, right?
something like that. You know what I'm saying? So from then and there, fast forward, George Bush, and then Afghanistan, Iraq, Osama bin Laden was the name that we heard
Constantly.
constantly. What's the name? What's the terrorist group?
Oh,
Uh,
it was Al Qaeda.
Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
Al Qaeda.
That was the first group.
That was the first group.
Gang, gang.
You feel me? And then from there, it was on and popping. And then there, things changed as far as like
Everything changed.
now. Just know we're gonna sign this thing into order. You know, you might have to
Patriot
look
Act.
Patriot,
Yeah.
which people not everybody gonna know about what we talk about right now.
It's insane. It's insane, and the one, if there was uh one thing that was positive immediately after the attack was that after for a couple of months after the towers fell, especially in New York, there was like a strong sense of unity, a strong sense of being an American. It didn't really matter who you were. If you identified as an America, we were kind of in this all as one. And that was the last time we truly were united as a nation. Was the moment the time directly after the attacks.
For us,
Everybody,
for us,
us as in, you mean by us
because
specifically?
now when we look back at it in hindsight,
Yeah,
the same way how Asians were getting mad hate during coronavirus, the beginning,
yeah.
is how I'm hearing that like people of
That's a
Middle
good
Eastern
point.
were getting
See,
they were catching hell. Like we didn't know about that though,
yeah,
because it's what you just said.
that's a
We're
fact.
all together, but
That's a
we
that's a
didn't we
fact.
didn't look Middle Eastern, so we weren't catching the hell that they were catching.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And and going, and that's a great example of when white people say, "I don't see racism." Well, of course you don't. You're not black. You're not the recipient of that treatment, of that discrimination, right? So like if it's one of those things where if a tree falls and no one was there to hear it, did it actually fall? It's one of those things,
Yeah,
right? Um, and yeah, and then just you bringing that up, it just didn't even cross my mind that people of Middle Eastern descent must have caught so much flack. If it wasn't even directly, it was indirectly. They've probably gotten looks. I remember, now that you mention it, I remember a bunch of falafel places having American flags immediately on their businesses, just to kind of to signal to the communities like, listen, we are not these people. We are Americans. We go to work just like you. We're just trying to provide for our families. But you know, America has a serious love with witch hunts going back hundreds of years. We love grouping a bunch of motherfuckers up, tying them up, or burning them at the stake. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
And it's very unfortunate. Fast forward to 2020. I mean, I can't remember in my lifetime um, the last time we were so divided. Um, and obviously a lot of the division is cross it goes across like racial lines and racial tensions, but like we're kind of currently undergoing a gender war, right? Overall, America is kind of going through this ideological cultural war right now. and everyone's fighting for what is considered American and how we go about conducting ourselves moving forward.
Ain't nothing more American than racism.
That's a fact.
People,
That's a fact, you know? And it's interesting, man, to kind of see the different perspectives. Obviously being a black man, I have a strong understanding of where we sit, um, you know, as a people in this nation.
hmm
And now, before social media, we would we were we didn't have this conversation. Like social media didn't really come in until like the late 2010s. 2008, 2009 is when it really started kind of leaking into the mainstream, right?
hmm
So the conversation of race on a quote unquote national level wasn't really being had since the civil rights, right?
yeah,
It was kind of a conversation that, was kind of swept under the rugs. Well, because social media is there and everyone has a voice,
hmm
it became more of a conversation. And I feel like for me personally, the beginning of our current state of um of the tension is Trayvon Martin, 2014. That was the first big, killing of a young black man that really outraged black people as a nation. And it hasn't really, we haven't stopped talking about it since.
hmm
And in a lot of cases, it's become a lot worse over time.
I agree. I wonder if that a little piece of it has to do with President Obama
Oh, yes.
Be-
No,
because there was a few uh, a few like high profile, well, low key high profile uh killings of black folks that have, like, especially like in New York. I forgot the name, Sean Bell,
yeah,
um, but in, while President Obama was president, and saying,
This could have been my son.
I'm saying that elevated the spotlight. I'm saying, and we're having this the most public trial since OJ. I feel like,
yeah,
and
yeah. It's a good point.
yeah,
That's a good point. Now that you mention that, you know, I had said earlier the beginning of like racial tension started with Trayvon.
hmm
I believe you just corrected me. I believe it started with Obama. Just by him being elected, um, you know, really outraged a lot of people, and felt as though he didn't deserve the seat, and deep down inside believed that a black man doesn't belong in the office. Um, because it did a lot of things, because once you have a black president, symbolically, aside from politics, um, policies, and programs that were rolled out, whether or not Obama did anything for black people, the one thing that he did for the community was he became a symbol of excellence. He raised the bar, for black people in
the
general. It
highest bar.
it emboldened black people in a lot of ways. I remember in Chris Rock's special Bigger and Blacker. What did he say? He said that
You
white
white,
people
the
the sky's the
sky's the
limits.
limit.
For
When
black
you
people the
black, the
limits the
limit's
sky,
the sky.
right? I feel like that bar is risen because of Obama symbolically. And there was a I did see more of a pride, especially amongst black men. I definitely saw more of a emphasis, on education and becoming a professional and doing right by your community, on a lot of levels. There's still a lot of fuck shit that needs to be addressed and cleared up and cleaned out within the community. But I did see that, and you're right. I think it really started with Obama's presidency and the feelings that him being office brought up.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I thought when he got elected, I thought he was gonna be assassinated within a few years. I thought he was
That's
assassinated.
crazy. That's
because
crazy.
it's just like we never seen this before, and
Yeah.
the amount of like 8 letters and the pictures of him,
Being
being drawn as
hung.
a pig and all that
All
stuff
right.
is,
And like dolls of him being hung
you know what I mean?
on. That's your president. That should be that's isn't that a federal crime?
And that's the crazy part, right?
You know?
Let it be in reverse, and oh man,
Oh, forget about it.
and I thought about that too. I'm like, I know you're not even allowed to say anything crazy, about a president or make any threats like that. That's Fed. That's
Yeah.
easily Fed time. But you know what was his biggest controversy, right?
His birth certificate.
Well, outside of that,
What's that?
wearing that brown suit. I don't know
Just
if you remember that.
this nitpicking. To be fair, it was an ugly ass suit. It was an ugly ass suit.
I didn't think it was like, you know what I'm saying, a little summertime
I'm not
vibe. You
into.
know what I'm
I'm not
saying?
into like the whole. Okay, I'm not against earth tones, but that was dookie.
Oh, but sometimes you got to switch the vibes up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
you know.
saying? It's black and yo, every suit is black and blue. Come on, man. Let's switch up. It's summertime. You know what I'm saying? Even if he came through without no collar, you know what I'm saying, shirt unbuttoned a
The
little bit.
suit,
You know what I'm saying? Just
D.
switch up the
The suit
vibes.
was booty. Straight buns.
All right, bet.
I'm
But
sorry.
the fact that Fox News just ran with that shit.
Yo, remember the fist bump? Remember the terrorist bump?
No.
There was so during some I don't know I forget what it was. I don't know if it was an actual. I don't know if it was like a convention. I don't know if it was I forget what it was. But Barack fist bumped Michelle, and Fox News ran as the terrorist bump.
Really?
You give him pound to your wife, and now you're a fucking terrorist.
Like giving her a pound. What? That don't even make
You know
sense.
they're nitpicking. You know they're
Yeah.
catering to their audience, and they're trying to fuel hate in order to immobilize them to ensure that they take the office the next time around. That's all the game is.
No, it's terrible. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like at the end of the day, we're supposed to be running as quote unquote Americans, all of
Mhm,
us. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
If it's politics, yo, just run your news on politics. At the end of the day, right? Every news company is supposed to be questioning, um, just verifying the fact
Yeah,
and identifying all the fuck shit. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Not making up stories, not for entertainment value. You know what I'm
That's what it
saying?
is. That's what.
It's all what they call it. It's all commercialized, and this is very sad that it's actually pitting people against each other. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, and part of it is a weird part to blame for it because we love drama, we love controversy.
I'm
I
not
mean,
taking that.
listen.
I don't.
Whoa, calm down, Jamal. Don't pull out the nine.
Well, as a collective, all right.
Yeah.
Maybe you as an individual, that's fine. If you want to identify with that, that's cool. But collectively, the American public loves the drama. I mean, just look at the insatiable love that we have for reality TV.
It's just
Uh,
insane.
it's insane and it's gross.
Yeah, trash.
But when you and I were working together and we were making trips out of town,
Mhm.
and I'm in the hotel, if I'm channel surfing and for whatever reason I land, on the Kardashians, before I know it's a half hour later, I realize I'm fucking sucked in.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing, kind of a weird lust that we have with that kind of stuff. So I will say that the American public, because it's supply and demand. And people, the powers that be, the people that want to make money, who are concerned with making money, are going to give us what we want. And I feel like we do have a hunger for that.
Yeah, I agree. I know back in the days I used to watch stuff like Love and Hip Hop, Flavor Flav. What's that show? I forgot Flavor of Love and all that stuff.
Flavor
I
of
used to
love.
watch that stuff. I
But
can't lie.
now,
But now,
like the love and hip hop, but it's like it's so much more petty. Like there's a I don't know the names of these shows, but I was watching a clip of a reality TV show that was centered around strippers in
mhm,
Miami. Like, what has it come to? And like, these strippers catfighting, and like it's there's one clip of this one little stripper.
mhm,
She's getting into an argument with one chick, and they rah rah back and forth, and all of a sudden this girl starts crouching. She's creeping around, right? And all of a
mhm.
sudden she comes down with a double leg like wrestling move, and it was legit good technique and everything.
Oh my
and be it's like, what is going on with the world right now? Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
the world's so much more different. And I can at least speak for America. We're so divided, and
Mm,
it's crazy because I look back during 2020, during the height of the racial tensions, during the height of all the protests. Um, you know, the black community in general with BLM basically were calling white people out on the different injustices
mm,
and disparities systemically, and rightfully so. We needed to be heard, we need to be loud. In some cases, we needed to be destructive in order to really see any kind of semblance of change. But I remember, you know, thinking to myself during that time that, this is good. Even though it was scary, this is good because we haven't really put everything all out onto the table until now.
yeah.
But where, with all the calling out and the finger pointing, um, we are going to eventually need to redirect that energy towards ourselves, right? There's a lot of conversations that we need to have within the black community, um, about certain values and behaviors that isn't necessarily
Productive.
productive, right, and contribute to the black community thriving. And fast forward 2 years later, that very thing is happening, but it's not how I thought it was gonna be. Um, I and maybe this is me being somewhat of an optimist, maybe being even childishly idealistic and naive. But I thought initially there was gonna be like civil discourse, right? These are my grievances. These are my grievances. Let's have a better understanding of it. And then as I'm saying this, what a fucking idiot. All right.
Not an
But
idiot.
it's very idealistic, especially with the climate that we're under. Like, how is that even going to be a thing? Where we are having these discussions, but there's a lot of shit slinging going across the aisle. There's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of blaming. um and this is not just within the black community. This is happening among within a lot of different communities within themselves, but I can only speak from the black perspective. um the gender wars that we're kind of going under right now, the issues of colorism, that we've always had but that we're addressing, the issues between people who are quote unquote fully black and mixed people, um, and the disparities amongst those groups, the issues between homosexuals, and heterosexuals, especially when you think of and the first thing I think of was like Atlanta and like the issues that they have down there. Um, like, I mean, what do you think? What do you think we're where we're at in terms of discussing these issues that we have amongst ourselves?
Um, I honestly don't know, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of people who hold the same ideals who are willing to listen.
Hmm.
Um, Now, are they willing to act is a whole different story. I feel like the majority of the people are on the same page. The majority of the people do not hold the power, right? In order for us to really be making changes in society, gonna be needed gonna be the law is gonna be it needs to be of assistance, right? And in order for these changes to happen, everybody's putting it on all on and it's the same way with Obama the first time too, right? Everybody thought that now that we have President Obama as the president, all the work is done. Now we can just sit back and just chill.
No.
And basically, we put a man in the office with no firepower, right? He couldn't do everything. First off, and I respected it when Obama said, "I'm not just a black president. I'm the president for everyone," which
The
is
fact.
very true. You know
The fact.
what I'm saying? So all these things that everybody wanted, he's not going to be able to do that. And
Oh,
he's going to need help to do that as well, right? Because if you know the basic ways of how government works, you have the executive branch, which is the president.
mhm.
You have the legislative branch, which is the senators and the House of Representatives, and then you have the judicial branch, which is the
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court.
Hmm.
I'm saying you have to give him the tools to 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 make things happen, to make changes happen.
Oh, he was gridlocked.
You know what I'm
Congress
saying?
wouldn't let him do
Off
shit.
rip. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So with that being said, you even have some blacks, and that's what we're talking about as far as like black folks against black folks. You
Yeah.
have some black folks who are like, damn, he didn't do nothing for me. You look at Trump, he was sending me money. Like, bro, chill out, bro. That's first off, you don't understand how this shit works. 'Cause if you're just thinking about money,
Yeah.
you're fucking up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and you bring a good point, man. You know, like one man isn't going to quote unquote save us, right? And I had before, we got on the mic. One of the things I was telling you was if we're talking on an individual basis, if you want to make a change as a person, um, dyeing your hair, changing your wardrobe is only going to change so much. Yeah, appearances are different, but you're not really different. You know what I mean? If you want to change, there are things that you are going to have to address internally and have to actively work on in order to see the change that you desire to see. And I feel like that's where we're kind of at right now. And I feel like that is what's going on with all this infighting that we have within the community. Now, face value, looking at it from on the surface, it looks like we're going at each other's throats. Um, with some of the language that I hear, it, sometimes I wonder, sometimes I fear that we've become so fractured that a lot of these different groups are to the point where we're unreconcilable. But then going back to me being naive and me being childishly idealistic,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're kind of undergoing, if we looked at the black community as an individual, as a person, I feel like we're kind of going we're undergoing the detox phase of a rehab. We're kind of slinging shit at each other, and all the impurities are being brought out onto the table. And when that happens, when you're undergoing detox, it feels like shit. It feels like it's going on forever. It's
Mm-hmm.
miserable, and a lot of times you feel like you want to die. Um, but I do feel like all things this will subside, and when the dust settles, there's going to be a lot of lessons learned, especially for the younger generations to look at, to make adjustments, and to bring ourselves forward.
I believe so. I believe so. We get it when we get to the chance where we have to understand that we all have to hold ourselves accountable. You
That's
know what I'm
it.
saying?
That's the word.
And I feel like, I'm gonna say this a lot. Buzzwords. I feel like that's another buzzword as well. Accountability. Because like I know when I do wrong, I have to say sorry.
Yes.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm totally aware it's that, but some people do not want to hold themselves accountable. It's always about blaming the other person. Well, what? Well, no, bro. Check yourself. No, you fucked up. You ain't gonna say the reason you don't have this is because of this person. No, bro. You gotta check yourself. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? So you're totally correct. I think we're I think I think this is going to be like a reset. I
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
I'm optimistic as well. It's not gonna stay this way.
Nope.
It's really fucking ugly in these streets right now.
It's so ugly.
You know what I mean? But both sides have a lot to work on, and we need each other.
Bottom line. Bottom line. And you know, especially when it comes to the gender war that it seems like we're kind of undergoing. People are. I have to say this: the amount of suffering, the amount of weight that the black woman has to carry, and for a lot of them to feel like we blame them for everything that goes wrong within the black community
Mhm.
is tough. And these discussions and these these discussions, these so-called wars or battles that we have, they go in phases. You know what I'm saying? A couple of weeks will be one topic and it'll phase into another one. But
Mhm.
one of the consistent themes that I um see Black women kind of communicating to everybody when we have these open discussions is they feel as though we blame them for everything. And I'm not saying they're completely innocent. I'm not saying they're not contributing to some of the issues that we have within our community. And let's be clear, every community has an underworld. Every community has their baggage. It's just ours is put on the front street and even
I
commoditized.
mean, we live this, so
Name another culture that is, when it comes to our underworld, is as commoditized as ours. Yeah, you had the Italians with the mob, you have
Mhm.
the Asians with like the triads and stuff like that. But like it seems like all of our dirty laundry is literally thrown onto the street and other groups are taking it and reselling it to the rest of the country.
we are the most. Yeah, what you just said.
You know?
We're the most commoditized, group of people on this
Like
planet. I mean, we are the fucking trendsetters.
we control cool. We decide what cool is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money, and I don't, there's a lot more we have to offer. There's a lot more we can contribute. But the reason why I emphasize that is, um, we determine what culture, and at least I can only speak from an American perspective because we live in a bubble, and there's so much more to Black people than the Black Americans or blacks within America. But I can only speak from that perspective. But we determine, like, ultimately, one of my favorite sayings is all American culture is Black culture 1 year later. That's a fucking
Yeah.
fact. The fact that I'm on the news and some, hoity-toity white guy is a news anchors, and he's laughing with uh um um his coworkers, and he's saying the word facts is an indication of like, dude, like, from our language, from the food to to fashion to mannerisms. You know how many gay white dudes are basically carbon copies of Black women? Literally, just they just use the Black woman's template.
Girl.
Period.
Bitch. Yeah.
It's an exaggerated caricature of
Mhm.
Black women. Um, we we c- and American culture is one of the biggest exports in the world, right? Alongside technology, American culture is one of the biggest selling points globally. And who is the number one influencer of that? Black people.
Yeah, ready.
Black people.
You already know.
And who's getting most of the benefits of that value that we generate? Not Black
Not
people.
Black people.
Not Black people.
Um, I don't even know. I don't even know where to go with that, man. Like,
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and that needs to change. But going back to the infighting,
mhm.
uh, I'm very hopeful. I do believe that this is a detox period, and all the shit that we put on each other, eventually, when it come to a common ground, we're gonna realize that every party has a point. Every party has a contribution to the solutions that we have as a community. The key component is what you said earlier: accountability. There has to be accountability. As as example, me, I am a lover of hip hop, and I've talked about this on plenty of podcasts. I have a very strenuous a very strenuous relationship with hip hop.
Mm.
The glorification of violence, misogyny, and um, the kind of like the symbol of what we consider is ideal Black masculinity is getting fucking old. That's just getting old.
Mhm.
It's getting old. You know what I mean? And this is a conversation that people avoid. Like, What other genre of music? What other genre of music is it cool for us to kill each other the way that we do in our lyrics? Really,
Yeah.
like really, you know,
Now,
disparaging our women the way that we do. Like really, like let's be honest with ourselves here.
eh, I'm still trying to figure out how do we even come to a resolve with this, because this stuff that you're speaking of is being force fed down our throats. You know what I'm saying? And we already know why.
But yes, it's being force fed. It's being perpetuated. But like, at what point do we take responsibility and we take control of our own fates and we collectively say like, bro, this is fuck shit. Like the glorification of gang culture. I mean, it's at a dangerous point right now. I mean, like, look at drill music.
There's so I've been there was a I don't even remember what interview I was watching, but we're all talking about the symptoms, but not why we're here, what the problem is in general.
Yeah.
Why is it drill music? When you talk about drill music,
Hmm.
the drill music is they're talking about their current situation. They can't eat, right? They no,
That's part of it.
that's part of it
It's
for sure.
mostly killing the next man, though.
Well, they're killing the next man, you know what I'm saying? Because maybe he's fucking up my paper or whatever the case may be. And this is not me. I'm not saying that I agree with none of that stuff, right?
Sure.
But why are some of our people in this particular situation in the first place? This place of poverty.
It's a fact.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a fact.
Lack of access to jobs,
That's a fact.
education, childcare. You know what I'm saying? So this is that talk of get it how I live it. And if someone's gonna get in my way, I'm gonna take them off the earth before I can, you know what I'm saying? Before they try to fuck up my paper, fuck up my ability to feed my family. And once again, for me, I can't speak for them, because fortunately for me, if I was hungry, I was gonna eat.
Yeah.
My parents did the best they could.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? They worked their ass off. I got to eat. Lights was always on and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? But in their particular case of, some of these folks, some of my brothers and sisters, they didn't have this access to education, all this and all that. They're taking the dads out of the homes, or if the dads was in the
Sure.
homes, the mom can't get no money from the government and all this and all that.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
no, and I agree. And that's one thing that unfortunately black people are looked down on from a lot of different groups. And that's for a lot of reasons. And a lot of that is because they believe a lot of our issues, gun violence, fatherless homes, all that is an indication of the issues that we have as far as the character of the community, right? Their value system issues within the community, which I agree to an extent. But it's not, those issues aren't racial. Those issues are socioeconomic, right? It doesn't matter who you are.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who you are on this planet. You are a product of your environment.
Okay.
You take a white person, take an Asian person, you take a Hispanic person, and you put them in those environments, they're gonna behave in the ways those people act. You know what I'm saying? Like scarcity, like if you are somebody, nothing's gonna mobilize somebody like being hungry, not knowing when your next meal is, and not having a dollar coming in. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Mhm.
Am I making sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like it makes sense that if you live in a community where education is scarce, where opportunities are scarce, you're living off teenies and honey buns. It makes sense that if you know that, you know, Dion is pushing drugs and you know his apartment and you know he probably holds, you're gonna run up in there. And if you run up in there, there's a high probability that you're gonna pop. He could pop you. You can pop him because he may not want to give up the drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
going back to what I was saying, it's not a racial issue. It's not we're genetically predisposed for violence. It's because we're fucking poor. and we need food, we need money, and we want status symbols like shoes, cars, clothes, and hoes in order to feel adequate in the society.
Now I'm gonna add this on to it, right? I want to say the biggest difference between black poverty and poverty with white folks or Hispanics,
Mhm.
Asians, whatever I want to talk about. Um, where these other races in bondage as long as
No,
African Americans were.
yeah,
The breaking of the black,
families,
and when I say breaking, I'm not even talking about breaking the families. I'm talking about breaking the person.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
that's
It's deeper than that.
and you're right. There's definitely because mental health isn't up until recently. Mental
Yeah.
health wasn't really discussed within the black communities, and there is intragenerational trauma that gets passed down after generation that goes undiagnosed and unchecked.
Which is to go to your point as far as like black folks being racist towards other black folks, like colorism and
Internalized.
all that.
Oh, it's so true, dude.
You know what I'm saying? So to me the biggest difference. Not only
So
is
true.
not only we had to deal with that. I want to say the biggest, our highest points of being black folks in America is not just uh black folks reaching the presidency. It's black folks actually standing up for what they believe in, the civil rights era.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They know if we band together, we can accomplish a lot of things. Know your laws. We're a community. If they take one, that's just one. Someone else is just coming right in after.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody's together. We're feeding the families. Even if I'm not here, I know my neighbor down the street is gonna make sure my kids eating. They're gonna get educated. They're gonna protect my, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
my offspring.
Yeah.
It was a community. That community has been broken, and it's not because
Dismantled.
Yes.
Dismantled.
This is done by the FBI. We know this.
We know this. Dismantled.
COINTELPRO.
You know what I mean?
This is legit. Motherfuckers could go do the research
Yeah.
and know motherfuckers fucking put together a whole game plan to fuck up black folks in America.
Like you were saying about the FBI, how our communities have been dismantled from
Strategically.
from our leaders, our two, even though they were polarizing figures from Martin and Malcolm, they got murdered
and they were coming,
assassinated,
and they were they were getting on the same page actually.
And that's what made them really dangerous. From them, from dismantling the Black Panther Party, right, and then the introduction of crack cocaine into the black communities.
Well,
It's just like, how is that not systemic? How is that like a systematic dismantling of a people? We have to get past the trauma. We have to get past the mental issues that we have within the communities. Because, like, when you think about black families, and I look back at the different black families, whether you're Caribbean, whether you're African American, like, there's a lot of dysfunction that needs to be addressed. A lot of dysfunction. And that's where I feel like a lot of the infighting's happening, where, women are saying, well, you guys, the black women are saying, well, you guys are deadbeat dads, you don't take care of your children, where you have a lot of fathers saying, well, you don't let me see my child, I'm trying to be part of their lives. And there's, a lot of back and forth. And it's ugly. But it's a necessary thing that needs to happen, that is happening. And I feel like, when the dust settles, and I say this to everybody, 30 years from now, black culture is going to be completely different. It may be too late for us. We may not see the true benefits of the shift. Maybe it's our role to kind of put it all out there. And for the younger generations who have access to these debates and these quarrels, and ultimately the lessons that they leave behind, to absorb that information, take it in, make the necessary adjustments in order for us to move on and move forward.
The big key is to be open. It's not about you just talking out your mouth. You need to actually listen.
Yeah.
Listen to what another person is saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Be able to have honest communication. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. Everybody's just talking and yelling at each other as opposed to listening and
Yep.
finding the middle ground.
That's it.
And that needs to be addressed.
Yeah. You know.
But the big thing is you are what you eat, right?
Yeah.
So same way when it comes to the consumption of all these things we're seeing on TV,
Mm.
all these networks, all these major networks are controlled by who? I'm not even gonna say by
We
who.
all know. We know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Let's just say it's not controlled by us.
That's
right?
a fact.
So the majority of all this programming that's on television, you know what I'm saying? We're watching, we're listening, music, all this junk, you know what I'm saying? And this is contributing to why some of some of us are I don't want to say pimps, but like, you know, we like the materialistic things, or let's see if we could get with this dude so that way we can get a bag.
Our values.
You know what I'm saying?
Our values are determined by this stuff.
I'm gonna tell you this, bro. I know this is kind of switching a little bit. I would be 100% behind reparations.
Okay, why is that?
Now, reparations. Did you see that post on Instagram about this dude talking about monopoly?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Yeah.
There was this older African American gentleman and talking about monopoly. How
we played Monopoly the other night, and I didn't take any money. I wanted to take the place of the slaves that were emancipated in 1865, who did not get the 40 acres or the mule.
Because you have a basic concept of how Monopoly works.
Sure. Yeah.
Everybody starts off with a certain amount of money. I forgot because I haven't played this game in years.
Yeah.
Everybody starts off with a certain amount of money, and then from there you get to accumulate wealth.
I know the video you're talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but when, you know what I'm saying, the Emancipation Proclamation, like, okay, now everybody's free. Black folks supposed to get their 40 acres and a mule. We never got our 40 acres and a mule, right? You know what I'm saying? So, what did America say? Literally, not literally, pull yourselves up by the bootstraps. That's even if y'all even gave black folks the bootstraps.
And guess what? We did.
Yeah, we had to make something out of nothing.
We did.
But not everybody did. Not everybody was able to do so because everybody's built differently, right?
But there were towns that were propping up.
And that, you know what? That's very true. So it's like, okay, you know what? Go do your thing, and we're gonna do our thing. All right, so fuck it. We're gonna mind our business, go do our thing, and then now once we do our thing, you don't fucking like it. You're actually doing better than us. From nothing to something.
Burning the place down.
Only time in American history was a city bombed from the air in the United States of America. Or the first time, I should say. Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Bombed from the air.
And that's just one instance. There are, I seen a map of different towns that, were prosperous or semi-prosperous or on the up and that were coming up that were attacked by mobs. And there was like I forget the period, the years that were that, and they just shut it down. To the point where like if you're living in that time and you're a black person now, like if your town is destroyed, and it's because of resentful white folks who don't want to see you prosper, you'd be afraid to rebuild again because your life's on the line. And let me be clear, when I talk about white people, I am generally talking about Anglo-Saxons in general. Like, because just like black culture, in black culture, Haitian culture is not the same. Jamaican culture is not the same. African American, we are different people with different customs. Same thing with white folks. Irish and Italians, Polish, even if you go east with Armenians, they're totally different people. So it's kind of unfair to generalize white people in one bucket. When I talk about white people specifically, I'm talking about Anglo-Saxons more often than not because they are the aristocratic class in this country. But don't get me wrong, the white people under them reaped a lot of the benefits that they have from the concept of whiteness.
No, man, this shit just it's sad. Their their lust for power. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We just trying to live, man. We
Yeah.
just trying to live.
Yeah.
And I hate the fact that I even have to say it that way.
Yeah.
Because it seems like we're subhuman.
So I have a lot of white friends. I have a few white friends that are near and dear to me and that I consider family. But I'm gonna have to be honest. My distrust of white people is at an all-time high. The best comparison that I can think of is I feel like Neo in the Matrix, and I don't know who is an agent. Anybody can be an agent. I don't know what people are really thinking, because during the fallout of Trayvon Martin, I can't tell you how many people that I thought were friends. Um, the things they would say about people that look like me, them showing their true colors, I was shocked. I don't think I've ever unfollowed or defriended as many people as I did during that period. Um, and with the different corners of social media, especially Twitter, because Twitter's a fucking cesspool. I don't know who's who. I don't know what you think. I don't know what you think of me. I just don't know. You know what I mean? And for somebody as such as myself, who grew up in predominantly white communities, who went to predominantly white schools, and that's a whole conversation whether or not that should be a thing. Because when I look back and ask myself if I were to do it again, to go to predominantly white schools, would I do it again? I don't know. Honestly, I don't think so. Based off my experience, but that's a whole different conversation. Um, but for somebody such as myself who has had more access to white people, more so than the average black person, for me to have my level of distrust, that says something. It really does say something.
I mean, it is what it is. It's part of your experience.
It's my journey.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You have a perspective that other black folks don't have.
Yeah.
And that's worth sharing.
Yeah.
I want to say it's the same for me as well. I probably didn't. It's probably in maybe middle school, high school, college when I started. You know what I'm saying, being around more black folks, and I'm saying, shoot, back in the days, you know what I'm saying, I used to like just the white girls, and that's all part of the programming too. Like
All the programming.
you know what I'm saying, I like the
That was the standard
blonde.
beauty.
Yeah, that was the standard of beauty.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't until high school, college, man. I'm like, damn, I like that.
Yeah.
That girl, she got that booty, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You start watching music videos, man, I really like ass, to be honest with you.
But even there with the music videos, how they
That's programming as well.
preferred light-skinned girls.
The red bones.
Red bones. You know what I'm saying? The colorism.
Yeah,
You know what's
yeah,
interesting
most
about
definitely.
colorism? Like, I feel like what colorism truly is white white proximity is a thing, right? On some level, because they are the dominant culture and they have access to majority of the resources, you're trying to get to them, you're trying to get close to them as possible, whether it's going back to being a house nigga, to marrying a white chick, kind of as a status symbol, whether it's going to their schools, in their institutions. The closer you can get to white folks, because that's the standard, that's the symbol of prosperity and progress, the better.
Low key, maybe low key, because you was just taught, or we was just programmed that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you crack a motherfucker, you black as fuck. Said it in the sense of like being black is a bad thing.
Or you have the good hair.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yeah, bro,
It's messy.
and this is more separation of black folks.
Yeah.
This is why we just all can't get on the same page.
Unfortunate. But, again, I feel like a lot of change is going to happen. These kids aren't having it. And, I don't know if there is interest groups that are actively seeking ways to continue to dismantle and disrupt black communities. I don't know. But I have hope. I really, really do. I don't know if that was always the case, but I really do. But I think that's a good place to end the conversation. And you know, DJ, aka 509 Reasons.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you coming by. Check out his socials.
For having
He
me.
also has a podcast that you guys should check out. It's called Stirring the Pot. Again, you can. I'll have all his socials laid out for you guys, but definitely check him out. And hopefully, we can have you back soon.
Man, it was a dope conversation, man. I
My
appreciate
man,
you having me, bro.
appreciate you.
Yes, sir.